Leon Draisaitl, whose bold words before this season gave me goosebumps. It's Stanley Cup or bust. Who's going to question that guy and what he's done? Or Connor McDavid, who EJ already mentioned. Each coming to you with this. Yeah. They haven't been to a Cup final since '06, and they have arguably two of the best players in hockey. Could this be their year?
Well, it could be. I mean, they're closing in. The last 2 years, they were eliminated by the team that went on to win the Stanley Cup. The Avalanche swept them a couple of years back, and then Vegas last year was a 6-game series. They're tied at 2 going into Game 5, and I believe they had the lead in Game 5, ended up getting kind of blown out on their own ice in Game 6. Yes, the Oilers, we know about the front of the lineup. Draisaitl, McDavid, lights out good. I mean, and they've got some other really high-end players at the top of their group. The question for me will simply be, is there enough depth? Is there enough balance? Is the D going to be good enough in big moments? And which goalie, if either, Campbell or Skinner, will be the guy in a big moment to get the job done?
Fair points by you. The goaltending last year, obviously Stu Skinner had a huge year last year. Real big progression at the NHL level. He was an all-star.
Yep.
Some of the all-star game, spoke to him at the all-star game down in South Florida. Jack Campbell didn't have the type of season in terms of impact that he would have liked. He knows that. He knows he has another 3 levels to his game. He had a really good offseason. He's been very good so far through training camp and NHL exhibition season. My thing, I'm going to give the fans a little. Should we give them any nuggets?
Do it.
Give them a nugget.
Give them nuggets.
Give them a nugget.
Okay.
That's what you're here for.
And we might offer maybe a little sweet and sour sauce, a little ranch, whatever you want. Who's your guy, the best player that ever played in the NHL that you have a relationship with?
Boy, well, it would be Gretzky.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
indeed.
so let's move on. Exactly. So talking to the great Wayne Gretzky, he said, here's the nugget. He said at the end of the season when they got eliminated, Connor McDavid, who's not a man of many words, stood up in the dressing room and gave the most impassionate speech ever and said, guys, August 1st or whatever the date was, everybody's back in Edmonton. Everyone, unless you're expecting and your significant other's expecting to be, everybody's back in Edmonton early.
That's awesome.
They got together early. They've been team bonding. They've been skating. So I'm very curious to see from the best now current player in the world in Connor McDavid, who set the expectation.
Yes.
And Leon Draisaitl, who's 1A in that category, who's also league MVP on his resume. For them to say Stanley Cup or bust, that's exactly what the mentality is for this team. And they've set that internally, fellas. So I'm curious to see how that impacts the group.
That was a golden nugget he just shared, EJ. Holy smokes. We look at what McDavid has done, and he says the right things, too. It's not just about his individual achievement. A parallel I've heard, EJ, weigh in on this. I've heard the comparison to Steve Yzerman, who put up really big numbers, and then those numbers became less gaudy, and the Wings started winning cups. Do you expect that kind of an adjustment from McDavid?
Well, I think Connor McDavid has matured in his game, and I think he's much further along in his two-way game now than he was earlier in his career.
No argument.
But the thing about, you mentioned Steve Yzerman. Think about the support that Steve Yzerman had when they started winning. And that was in a pre-salary cap era when you could really load up. I mean, I don't see Nick Lidstrom on the Oilers' blue line. I don't see a player of that ilk. I don't see the Brendan Shanahans and the Sergei Fedorovs that beyond, McDavid and Draisaitl. Clearly, Hall of Famers already at this stage of their career. But, I think, again, you need support. You need depth. And that's why we love Vegas, and we're talking about them because they have that depth. They have a guy like Nick Wass, 6'4". He's on the third line.
Yes,
he can be a fourth-line center.
Yeah.
Those are guys that they don't get a lot of accolades, but they help you win.
Yeah.
And so will the Edmonton Oilers have enough support to help the great players like McDavid and Draisaitl and some of the other top players they have there?
EJ brought up that great point about what Vegas had in terms of everything breaking right and great health. On the other side of that spectrum, Weeksy, we always root for the health of the players.
Always.
For the Colorado Avalanche, so many injuries last year to so many key players. How about health being such an important issue for them this year?
Massive. It really is. And you're right. They were besieged by injury last year, starting with their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, who, as you said in our pre-show conference call, is a difference maker in their group.
Especially in the big moments,
Totally.
Right?
Yes. He's clutch. He's a clutch player. He's a hard-nosed two-way player that can set the tone, whether it be a hit, whether it be a fight, whether it's something on the bench, whether it's net front.
Yeah.
He does a lot of the unsavory type things. And certainly his absence has really impacted this team. Valiant Nichushkin last year, we know he had a situation. He had missed time with Cale Makar injury, Arturi Lehkonen, who was so good. What an acquisition in the postseason, their cup win. And then, of course, Nate the Great McKinnon, although he missed 11 games, he still had a huge year. So if it's me, they're out there in that Rocky Mountain air, getting more of that altitude because that helps their conditioning, as you know. Get as much of that as you can because if they're able to be healthy, I think that'll go a long way in where they end up this season and what they end up accomplishing.
Well, listen, a couple of good things for them. I mean, there's a lot of good things with the Avalanche, but they know how to win, right? They've won a Stanley Cup, so they understand what it takes to get it done. Last year, they were undermined by injuries, and again, as you mentioned, Val Nichushkin just kind of goes AWOL on him, has issues, and he disappears in the postseason. That really hurt them. Chris McFarland, the general manager, went out in the offseason. Now, he knew he would not have Landeskog again this year. He's going to miss the entire season. But he went out and get a Ryan Johansson from Nashville. He added a Russ Colton from the Tampa Bay Lightning. He got a Miles Wood from New Jersey. How about Jonathan Drouin being reunited with Nate McKinnon? I mean, they're from the same neck of the woods, and they had a chemistry as young players together. So maybe he can restart his career. And as you see there, Thomas Tatar comes over from the Devils. Frederick Olsen, I liked him in the postseason for the Dallas Stars. So he's added the depth, we see, that I think you need to offset the loss of a Landeskog and then the potential other injuries that could factor in.
Great points. I love to see everybody get their cake that they earn. Everyone in any role, on ice, off ice, on camera, off camera. But I got to tell you, every once in a while, you need to do some budget work, too. And these guys did some real good budget acquisitions because getting Jonathan Drouin for what they got him for, reunited, as you said, with Nate McKinnon, I'm very, very interested to see how this goes because they have chemistry, as you said, each. They played together in junior in Halifax. They ran insane numbers together in the Quebec League in junior. And when Nate McKinnon goes to management, it's like, hey, man, my boy Drew, can we bring him in? Like, that's a huge cosign.
Absolutely.
If you're Drouin, who's looking to establish himself, because we know he's got the talent. We know he has the skill and the creativity, and he's overcome some challenges. And hopefully for him, he's in a good spot right now, and he's insulated. But you know the other one that I want to talk about here? Thomas Tatar! Thomas Tatar!
Preseason, mid-season form.
What happened? He played well for the New Jersey Devils.
He did.
I thought he would have resigned. I thought they would have resigned him. I love everything the Devils are doing. They're just up the highway from here. We love them. But I thought Tatar was a really good piece, and this is a very cheap, economical piece for Colorado.
Yeah, that's the thing. So give Chris McFarland some credit there. And to get Ryan Johansson, they got him for 2 years at basically half price because Nashville ate the other half on that trade. Really interesting time for Ryan Johansson. He is not a guy that plays with tremendous pace. That's the way that the Avalanche play when you think about Makar and Taves on the back end, and they really drive that offense from the blue line. I'll be curious to see the fit there for Johansson, but this is a great opportunity for him to really kind of restart his career with, as I said about the Oilers, right, support. He's got a lot more support now than he's had in the past.